So great. Thank you so much, guys, for joining today to our session of AWS Solution Architect Associate Certification Insights. My name is Haris Zahir Ahmad. I'm AWS Solutions Architect here at TecBrix. I have been working with AWS for the past 5 years, and I myself has done some certifications, three associates and two professional level certifications of AWS. And today we will be discussing about AWS certification, like what you need to know, what is AWS certifications, why AWS certifications matter today, what are the key areas and for focus, and what are the example questions. We'll try to explore some sample questions like what kind of questions AWS will be asking to you in the certification exam. Plus, we will discuss about some effective strategies and some. I will share few study resources and tips where you can, study for the AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate exam and get prepared for the for the examination. Plus, at the end, I will also, let you know how you can get certified with the TecBrix for free, where you can, get certified and will be sponsoring your certifications. So we'll get started. So the first question is why we need to certify, why these certifications are important. So there are two benefits for the AWS certifications. First benefit is for the individual who are doing the certifications. The first benefit is that they can demonstrate that they have expertise in the AWS. If you say to someone that I have been working with AWS for the past 2 years, I have deployed many applications, I have experience, they might not believe you at first. So if you say, okay, I have the AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate certification or any other certifications which you have, so you can earn that recognition and visibility as well. Okay, people will know that okay, this individual has the certificate, so they will assume that you have already having the experience and understanding of the AWS. Plus, it will foster your credibility within your employer as well and your peers. For example, if you are starting your career as a DevOps engineer, or you want to be a DevOps engineer, or maybe some of you are working as a DevOps engineers, but if you say that you have the AWS certification as well, so it will foster the credibility within the organization you are working, also with your peers as well, that you can deliver these solutions, implement the solutions, let's say high available solution or fault tolerant solutions on AWS. So it will give you the benefits being a person, being an individual in this technology. If you're a DevOps engineer or a cloud engineer, certifications will give you the added advantage. Plus, the other benefits are tied up to the employers. For example, being an AWS partner, sometimes we say that okay, we have 20 plus or 30 plus AWS certified individuals within our in our organization. So it gives us the credibility, plus it gives us to get more and more customers and get the customer satisfaction, that customer can feel satisfied, the customer can feel that okay, if we will work with TecBrix or with the partner who has AWS certified individuals, we know they can deliver the project, we know they can guide us as per the best AWS practices. They can guide us on the best AWS standards of security, standards of high availability. So getting these certifications will be beneficial for both, for you plus the organization you are working with. So why you should certify now? So as we've seen the benefits, so what you can do is after getting the certified, it will be better for your customer. So you can better guide them in the solutions on AWS. Once you do the certification exam, you will study for it. You will understand about the AWS architecture principles, about the best practices, about the services. So if you understand about these services, then you can better guide them, like to suggest them the solution. Also, you can better support your customers. If someone is asking you about, okay, how I can build the architecture, build the 3-tier web architecture on AWS, you can better guide them because you understand about the AWS, the services, why RDS is being used, why EC2 is being used in a proper way. Then you can better guide them. And also for your employers, it can increase the customer trust and satisfaction. Plus, if you are having individuals within your organizations who are working with your peers, and within the skilled workforce where 20 DevOps engineers are working with you, it will give you the competitive advantage as well to get to the new opportunities. For example, you are working as a DevOps engineer in your organization, and within your organization you have a project where you need to deploy, let's say, multiple applications on AWS cloud. So if you have this certification, it will give your employer the confidence that you can deliver this. So it will open the new doors, new opportunities for you. Also for the employers as well, it will, AWS has different partner tiers: select, basic, advanced, premier. Having the as AWS certified individuals within the organization can help the partner to achieve higher partnership tier with AWS as well. Plus, for you, once you have that certification, it will give you the confidence as well that you have passed the certification. Plus, now you can build the solutions on AWS. You can demonstrate if someone is asking, okay, how we can do this thing. You can earn the recognition, earn the visibility. You can put your badge on LinkedIn, just you know to make sure in your network community that you have that certification, just for your personal growth as well. For the AWS Certified Solution Architect exam, there are few areas which AWS will judge you. For example, they have a total of 4 domains. The first one is they design a resilient architecture, design high performing architecture, design secure applications and architectures, design cost optimized architectures, and they have the weightage of each domain. For example, we'll go through some of the AWS practice questions as well, and it will give you the more understanding of what kind of questions they will ask and how you can choose the best answer. So, for example, in the AWS resilient architectures and high performing architectures, sometimes they will ask you, okay, an organization needs uh, a high available architecture, which AWS services you will use. Then if you once you will study for the certification exam, and if you do a practice on AWS, which is highly recommended, you will get to know that, okay, we can use AWS load balancer, and we can use application sorry, ASG auto scaling group in collaboration with load balancer. It can give my architecture, so my architecture will be highly available and resilient. But sometimes in the questions they will ask you, okay, an organization is having this type of application, but they need cost effective solution. Then you need to select the option which is cost effective. Sometimes the other questions, the other answers might look correct. Okay, this is the high available architecture, I should choose that, but it comes up with some kind of extra cost. So what you need to do, based on the question, you need to understand what they are asking and choose the right option. So for the examination, what kind of exams they will be asking you within in this certification exam? So the questions will be multiple choice questions. Sometimes these are single selection. For example, I will give you one brief example. Okay, what is the suitable service from the AWS for the object storage? They will give you like EBS, RDS, S3, and sometimes elastic cache. So we know that S3 is the best option for the object storage, and we can choose that. But sometimes they will ask you to choose two best options. So there are two type of exam questions. Plus, there might be few times you will not be able to understand the question very well, and you might know the exact right option, so you can guess. There is no penalty for guessing, so you can just choose the option which you think that it is the most suitable. Plus also sometimes what happens during the exam, that okay, you have performed let's say 10 questions, and the 11th questions you are not confident that okay, which service to choose, nothing is hitting in your head, so you can mark that question, complete the other questions, and come back later. So you can mark that question for the future consideration. So you can mark the questions which you feel you need another round of review, so you can review that and come back again and do the answer their questions. For the associate level exams, you will not be able to have anything like paper, pencil, or anything, or to write down. So you will be just presenting in front of the uh, a PC and answering the questions. And before submitting the questions, if you have time, you can review the questions. And for example, there might be some questions which will be very obvious to you that, okay, this is the right option. But sometimes you are not very obvious. So you choose something plus you can mark that question. And once you feel that, okay, maybe I will rethink that question again. So you can select that marked question again and try to see and choose the best option accordingly. So let's discuss about some of the examination tips which we can, you know, there might be few tips which will be seen very obvious and very basic, but yes, again, we need to start, from somewhere, and the sometimes having and doing the basic concepts, or applying the basic things is enough. So, for example, for this AWS certification examination, what you need to do is you need to read the question and answer at least one time fully. Sometimes what we do is we read the question, we missed some portion, and then try to, you know, rush through the answers. What you need to do is you need to at least read the question full statement one time. Sometimes there might be big statements and big answer statements as well, but the time can be manageable. And I will also let you know that you can increase the 30 minutes time of your solution architect associate exam if you are a non-native English speaker. So we'll discuss this at the end, but the time will be enough. Don't rush, so you have to read the full question and answer at least one time, and then start by eliminating the obviously wrong answers. Sometimes if you have to choose two best options, one option is completely wrong, so just you know eliminate that and then start reading the other three options, and then from that choose the two options. And again, mark the questions which you are not sure. So if you are not sure about any question, you can mark that question and come back. Plus, you have to keep an eye on the clock. Sometimes what happens is that in the initial questions, we put a lot of our time. Let's say by doing the 10 questions, I have consumed, let's say 50 minutes, because I'm reading all the questions in huge details. I'm reading it again and again. You have to make sure that you are keeping an eye on the clock as well. Plus, you don't need to go too fast for an easy questions. There will be some traps. Sometimes the question will be looking very obvious. Okay, a company is suffering from high availability and all these things. But at the end, they will mention choose the most cost optimized option. In the full statement, they will be asking about customer is having issues with the availability and scalability, but at the end they will say, okay, they will be you need to choose the cost optimized solution. So if something is looking very easy, just if you read the full statement, you will see there might be few traps which they have set to confuse the individuals. So once you have the time, you can review the marked questions. So uh, in the initial exam, even when I was doing the exams, if I have doubt, I marked that question. And let's say if I have marked 10 or 15 questions, I will be reviewing them. And if even if in the second time I see, okay, the option which I have choose is correct, I just keep the same option and unmark that. But you can just mark the questions which you think that you need, some study again. You need to go through this question again. So if it's some question is taking too much time, just mark that question and proceed to the next question. Don't just waste 10 minutes on a single question, because you can review the questions as well again. Also, identify the text in the questions that imply certain features. For example, data retrieval times. Sometimes they will ask you questions about, let's say, S3, and they will say, okay, an organization who are storing videos on S3, but they need choose the right storage tier. But at the end, they will mention, okay, whenever they need to retrieve the video, they need it very fast. So now you need to choose the option which is best suitable. Now, if they say, okay, they need a data retrieval fast, so it means that we cannot go with the Glacier archival, because we know that in the S3 class, Glacier class, the data retrieval times are fast. So we need to make sure that based on the options provided, we can choose the right option. Let's say if they have provided S3 infrequent access, because the retrieval will be fast and it will be a bit less expensive than the standard S3. So based on the AWS features, they may put these kind of text within the questions, data retrieval, or you know uh, sometimes for the RDS they will say, okay, there are a lot of read queries on the databases. What is the best option that we can uh, you know uh, may have a solution of this problem, that if application is going down because there are a lot of read queries. Sometimes they will say, okay, increase the database vertically, like use the higher class. But sometimes they will say, okay, have the read replicas in front. So that seems to be a very good option, so we can choose that. Also, sometimes they will say in a most cost effective way. If they say in the most cost effective way, although the other solutions may look good to you, but we don't have to choose those options. We need to choose the options which is really cost effective. Even if they say that they need data retrieval, the organization, they need data retrieval fast, but choose the most cost effective option. If they say most cost effective option, then we need to go with the Glacier, because that is the most cost effective option. Although, as per them, also once we will be reading the questions and reading the answers, other options might be more suitable. But we need to think about in the perspective of the question, what's the question is asking to us. And also, sometimes if you are hesitating and reviewing it again and again, then just give it your best guess. If you see, okay, this might be good option, because you will be having room for some incorrect questions as well. You need to score 720. Plus there is another very important aspect. Once you see that, okay, I have prepared for the examination, now maybe after 2 weeks you have booked your AWS Certified Solution Architect exam. You must have to perform the practice questions before the certification exam. I will share the link with you. There are some options available in the market. Let's say Tutorials Dojo. There are some from the AWS as well. You have to perform the practice questions if you want to make sure that you are passing in the first attempt. In my experience, when I prepared for the exam for the very first time in 2019, I failed in AWS Solution Architect Associate exam. What I have done, I have get the course, study, do the study material, read some of the AWS documentation, understand uh, AWS architectures, but I didn't practice on the before the certification. I feel that I was ready for the examination, but when I have done the exam, I was not ready. I failed the exam. Then in the next try, I purchased the sample questions. I purchased the sample question. I have gone through the four sample test, like 75 questions, 65 questions. And then in the next try, I passed the examination, because sometimes you feel that you understand all these things. But once you give the certification exam or once you do the practice test, then it will help you to identify the key areas which you need to refocus and restudy. So please make sure whenever you are just giving the exam, please make sure to have the practice test. uh, so you have to do the practice exam before. Sometimes being working in this industry or for the cloud partner, we are working on AWS for the past, let's say, 5 6 years. Every day we deal with the customers, every day we build the architecture. Sometimes we don't need that, but if you are doing it for the first time, or if you're a fresh graduate or a student or at the early stages of your career, make sure you do a bit of labs and these practice questions, so you will be passed in the first try for sure. So now, call to action. So what you need to do is you need to plan the certification and then book your exam and then block the study hours. Many times what happen is we will say, okay, let me do the certification preparation first and then I will book my exam. And then it sometimes it didn't work. It didn't work for me for sure. What I have to do whenever I have to need to do the certification, I book the certification for the, give myself a time for 2 to 3 weeks, and then I will block the study hours every week. So you have to study every day, even if it is 20 to 25 minutes. Break down the courses wherever you are studying from. It doesn't matter where you are studying from. So there are my good options to study. I will share the link from where I have studied. It was the AWS Cloud Guru and Stephen Merrick course on Udemy. These two options were good for me, and Tutorials Dojo for the practice exams. So you have to make sure that wherever you are studying, you have to divide that into, let's say, if you want to schedule the exam in 3 weeks or in a month, every day sit for 30 minutes, 1 hour, 1.5 hours as per your schedule and study. Don't do this like if you have studied enough and then after 2 weeks you're not studying and at the third week there is an exam. So I have done this for my sysops examination. I have studied, and then, due to workload, I couldn't schedule my exam. And then I didn't study for 2 weeks and then sit for the SysOps. And then I failed again in the SysOps examination. Because for the 2 weeks, I didn't see, I thought maybe I'm well prepared and then I will be sitting for the exam and I may pass. But it didn't happen. So, what you need to do is you need to study every day until your exam date. Make sure that you have covered everything. This will be the exam interface. Something like this you will be presented with in your examination day, that you can see this will be the question. So this is the sample question. So you will be having all these questions. You can go back anytime as well, select the 20th. And once you are done this, choose the radio button, answer, and then click next. This will be the interface. It's very easy, simple, straightforward. So nothing to worry about. And once you get the digital badge, you can, sign up on the correctly and make sure that you get your badge verified, and then you can share it on LinkedIn in your network, just to, make sure that if you are looking for the new opportunities, it is important for you to, get certified and make sure that you are publishing your badge on the LinkedIn, so that recruiters and other people know that, okay, you have done the certification and you have gotten the skills of AWS. So this is the associate level exam. It is a very, very good entry point for you. Uh, so some of you might be at the early stages of your career and you want to, focus on you want to become an AWS solution architect, cloud engineer, or even for the DevOps engineer. It is very important. And this is the most basic and a very good start for you to do this AWS Certified Solution Architect certification. It's just 130 minutes long and it will cost you like 150 USD. So it will be having 65 questions and multiple choice or multiple response questions, where sometimes you need to choose two options. And you can schedule it You can sit for the exam online as well, plus you can go to the testing center as per your convenience. You can schedule your exam. And for me, I have, even I when I was graduated, I also, want to become the AWS cloud engineer, and I have done this certification, the first thing which I have to do before even get my job, and it helps me in getting the job as well. So it helped me a lot to get the job because sometimes if you see the job opportunities, they mention that okay, AWS certified solution architect individuals preferred. Sometimes they say mandatory. So it will be very, important for you to be AWS certified. There are few links which I will be pasting in the chat in like 5-10 minutes about the exam guide, sample questions, how you can schedule the exam, AWS link. So it can help you to better understand about the exam. So for example, if I just go to this exam sample exam question, so let's go to the sample questions, like these kind of the questions which AWS will be asking to you in the exam. So for example, let's go through this. A company runs a public facing three-tier web application in a VPC across multiple availability zones. The Amazon EC2 instances for the application tier in private subnets need to download software patches from the internet. Okay. However, EC2 instances cannot be directly accessible from the internet. Which actions should be taken to allow EC2 instances to download the needed patches? Now we understand that the in this questions it's asking that your EC2 instances are in the private subnet, but they need to access to the internet. Also, EC2 instances cannot be directly accessible from the internet. So these are the options. Now, configure a NAT gateway in the public subnet. Okay, as we know that NAT gateway is required for the private EC2 instances to connect to the internet and download anything. Let's review the other. Define a custom route table with a route to the NAT gateway for the internet traffic and associate it with the private subnet of the application tier. Assign elastic IP address to the EC2 instance. Define custom route table with a route to the internet gateway for internet traffic and associate it with the private subnets. Okay. Configure a NAT instance in a private subnet. Okay. Let's remove the obvious wrong question. So for example, this assign elastic IP address to the, because they mentioned that we cannot keep the instance should not be directly accessible from the internet. Also, it is in the private subnet, so attaching an elastic IP will not make any sense. So this is completely wrong answer. And again, what it this is doing, so this is creating an internet gateway and adding the route to the private uh, subnet so that instance can reach to the internet. This is something we cannot do because the instance we have to keep it private. So this is something we can remove. Configure a NAT instance in a private subnet. NAT instance. Okay, we can configure a NAT instance, but not in a private subnet. Like NAT gateway, we have to keep it in public subnet. So this is we not a right option. So what we left, configure a NAT gateway in the public subnet, correct. We need to configure a NAT gateway in the public subnet so that our instances in the private can access the internet. So we can expect similar kind of questions in the examination. Also, let's say I will give you the option of will go to the question which is okay, this one. A company uses Amazon EC2 reserve instances to run its data processing workloads. A nightly job typically takes 7 hours to run and must finish within 10 hours time window. The company anticipates temporary increase in demand at the end of each month that will cause the job to run over the limit with the capacity of the current resources. Once started, the processing job cannot be interrupted before completion. The company wants to implement a solution that would provide increased resource capacity as cost effectively as possible. So, after reading this statement till here, we can assume that okay, they are facing issue that they need more resources to run the job, which should be complete in 7 hours, like within the 10 hours time window. We might think, okay, they need more resources. Yes, they need more resources. We need to add more computing power, but as cost effectively as possible. So now, deploy on demand instances during the periods of high demand. Perfect. That's the very right option. Like it seems right because they need resources and we need to deploy the on demand instances. But they mention as cost effectively as possible. So this option might not be correct for us. So let's proceed. Create a second EC2 reservation for additional instances. Okay, this might the both these options can resolve the issue, but not the right option. Deploy spot instances during the period of high time. Yes, this is the right option. The reason is that we need to make sure that we are choosing the cost effective solution. So as we know that spot instances are the the extra capacity of AWS, which is available uh, for us on the very limited rate. So we need to choose this option, these spot instances. So these kind of questions, we need to make sure that we are paying attention to these kind of details in order to pass the AWS certification. And sometimes there will be multiple choice questions where a company has a two-tier application architecture that runs in a public and private subnets. EC2 instance running on the web application are in the public subnet, and EC2 instances for the database runs on the private subnet. The application instances and the database instances are running in a single availability zone. Which combination of steps should a solution architect take to provide high availability for this architecture? Now, our focus should be on the high availability of this architecture. We need to choose two options which are correct for the high availability. Create public and private subnets in the same availability zone. Okay, this option is wrong because it will not impact the high availability. High availability means that we need to design a solution. If the component fails, let's say if one availability zone fails, others should be working. So let's see the other option. It's saying create an Amazon EC2 auto scaling group and application load balancing spanning multiple availability zones for the web application instances. Perfect. So this option seems correct because it's saying on the multiple availability zones behind the application load balancer plus using the auto scaling group, we can span uh, create the Amazon EC2 instances. So if something happens with one AZ in the different availability zone, application will be up and running. If something happens with the one instance, auto scaling group will launch the another instance. And if one instance is getting a lot of load, so load balancer will make sure that it is balancing the load. So this option seems correct. Plus, add the existing web application instance in an auto scaling group behind an application load balancer. Existing web application instances. Okay, so sometimes we see, okay, it is adding the auto scaling group and behind the application load balancer, but there will be some delay. So they mention in a single availability zone. And both of even if you add auto scaling group and application load balancer, if it's a single availability zone, it will not make any impact. We cannot make the high availability. High availability means that if the AZ fails, we can, our application should be up and running. So B and C, create new public and private subnets in the new AZ. Create database using EC2 instance in the public subnet in the new AZ. Migrate the old database content to the new databases. It will not make any impact because it's just creating the new availability zone and migrating the database from one AZ to another. Create a new public and private subnet within the same VPC. Attach a new availability zone. Create Amazon RDS multi-AZ database in the private subnet. Migrate the old database content to the new database instance. That's the very good option. Now, if we are using RDS and we have the multi-AZ enabled, now if something happens to the primary RDS, Amazon RDS will automatically switch to the secondary, will not be having any impact. So it will be giving us the high availability and fault tolerance as well using this. So B and E will be the right options for us. Sometimes these questions can take a bit more time, but choosing this understanding about what is the requirement because they need high availability and then selecting the answers, we can save a lot of time. So we need to focus what they are needing, within this question. So over here, they need high availability. In the previous question, they need cost optimized solution. So based on that, we need to define the answers. So let's go. I will share these links with you. And also, once you start preparing for this at a certification, it can help you to gain knowledge in the compute services of AWS, let's say autoscaling group, EC2, Lambda, networking, VPC, subnets, and storage, S3, EBS volumes, databases, RDS, Aurora, DynamoDB, these kind of services. So it will give you a very good understanding of the full spectrum of AWS services, preparing for this AWS Solution Architect exam. Also, it can test your knowledge in deploying and managing operating workloads in AWS. So if you have the privilege to by creating the AWS account, AWS allows you to use some of the AWS services in a free tier. So if you have that AWS account, do practice a bit, try to add those resources, but make sure that you are using only the free tier services so that it will not give you the cost. Also, preparing for this will give you the understanding of the AWS Management Console and the command line interface as well, about the security services and about the AWS global infrastructure, landing zones, regions. It will give you the very good understanding of the AWS ecosystem. Plus, you know, it will help you to get a more understanding of the technical requirements of the AWS based application which are deployed. You will be able to understand the existing deployed architectures on AWS, and you will be able to build architectures on AWS by learning about this AWS Solution Architect certification. This is the just the account structure, like for being a partner as well. So we have the APN portal as well where we can register for the partner training, and we can. So for you, you can go to the AWS certification from the Google and register for the exam. Once you are passed, you book it. You can book it with the Pearson view, and then once you are passed, you can sign into the Gradly, and then expose your certification on the LinkedIn. So one more important uh, thing which I want to ask you is related to this. So we can schedule the exam accommodation as well. So for example, if there are some people with the disabilities, they can, request for the accommodation. So they can provide you the accommodation once you reach to the testing center. The most important one is this: English as a second language. So I have already, availed this. So what they will do, if you are a non-native English speaker, I'm a non English is not my primary language. So what I can do, I can request AWS to give me 30 minutes extra time on that. Sometimes having this 30 minutes extra is really beneficial if you are, you know uh, uh, sitting for the exam for the very first time. Extra time will surely help you, because sometimes we take a bit more time in order to understand the questions and answer. So you can request it. So where you can request this, once you are scheduling the exam, you will see the button of request accommodation. When you click this request accommodation, you will see this ESL plus 30 minutes. Choose this and create, and then they will approve the additional 30 minutes for you, so that you can understand the questions in a more detailed way, and even if the time is up, you have still additional 30 minutes to pass your certification exam. And here it is. So that's it from this session. And as in the call initially, I have mentioned that we have a program. So what we can do for you, we will share the link of one form which you can fill out. And if you get back to us that, okay, I have attended this session and I have passed the AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate examination. And what we will do is we will reimburse the amount which you have paid to pass the certification exam. So let's say if someone you're passing for the first time and you have paid like $150, what I will be doing, I will be just needing your uh, email address where you have done the certification. So this will be applicable to the four individuals. So if any one of you from uh, let's say 23 January onwards, let's say if you say, okay, you will be passing the exam in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, prepare for the exam, pass the certification, and then you can get back to us and we will reimburse the amount for your certification. And also I will be sharing few study guides and AWS link with you in this chat, so that you can you know browse through those links and maybe so there is a link of Udemy course which I find interesting, and it uh, he explained in a bit detail, plus also the exam questions which we have gone through. I have added the link to that, so you can go through the links and study for the examination. Also, if you want to connect with me, you can connect with me, and if you want to have ask any question or need any support for any kind, please don't hesitate to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'll be more than happy to help you in your you know exam or before exam. If you have any questions, you want to understand anything, or if you say, okay, please explain me more about building the high available architectures or building the cost optimized architectures, I have these questions, I'll be more than happy to assist you in this.